Well, we're talking more about the 5% rise in social housing costs that have been incurred for everyone from next year. Eddie Powell's here down in Ballasalla. You are Commissioner, but you're not talking just on their behalf, are you, today?
No. I'm also a social care tenant, so I'm a tenant actually to government,
right,
as against the local authority housing. So I sort of cross into both.
And I mean, you run the MHK's site and that sort of thing. You're very keen on your politics.
Oh yeah.
But this one. You flagged up again that you don't think it's fair, but I mean, it could have been 10%, Eddie.
Oh yes, absolutely. I'm not saying that. I think it's a lot of. I was going to say what had been said. We can start off with one thing. We were told that local authorities. This is with my local authority hat on. The local authorities asked for 5%, or the majority did. Now the figures that we've got, talking over social media amongst other commissioners on Friday and Saturday, is that actually of the 9 or 10 actual local authorities that have housing, only 3 of them agreed up to 5%. One had said 5%. Douglas had said 5%.
Well, you say up to 5%.
I voted for 0.
Yeah, but you're
on the means testing. There, I can honestly tell you because it's in the public domain anyway. There were 4 people. 2 voted for up to 5%, and I voted for, one I believe was 3%, and I said no because of the means testing. So it's and you're talking about a maximum, and yet again they've jumped in with the maximum and saying everybody wants 5%. No,
well, Douglas said that's perfectly good for them.
Douglas are in a different situation actually, because one of the things is when we all had the point system put on us, which is you get so many points for a back garden that's secure, for parking areas and this sort of thing. Douglas didn't accept those. They refused to bring them in, and everybody else got a real whack up, and some people got an increase on their properties of 25%. So Douglas is sort of need to be a little bit careful.
Okay, but what's the point? I mean, you say yourself, you're in social housing. Are you critical? I mean, are you one of these people they're talking about that are fixed income, there's no movement at all? Because obviously most people who are below a certain threshold, they get the assistance, don't they?
Oh yeah. This is the thing. It's the person in the middle again, because you've also got. I had somebody on the telephone to me today, and they said, "Well, you've got to realise we've also got to pay this new sewage tax. The rates are going to go up. You know, I can say that with my commissioner's hat on. The rates are going to have to go up because of the charges. Admittedly, Mr. Gorn has now frozen this thing with the escalator, as he calls it, for the charge for the amenity subject, the incinerator, just for this year. But we've still got to find the money to take on the hedge trimming and everything else. So that goes up. So everybody pays.
But Chris Robert Shaw was saying when he had the job ages ago that, you know, basically these rents will have to go up by a lot. I mean, they're under the market value by a fair bit. Obviously, there would have been means testing coming in, but that's been put back. Is that what's the problem here?
Yeah, I think so. That's the means testing certainly would have helped. The other thing is matching. I have a problem with this matching up to private, and I know what people say and everything else. But private housing is done as a business. The private rentals are done for a business. Government is not there to provide housing as a business. I know they say it shouldn't, somebody's work. It is social housing. It's there as a social facility. And this is the difference that I feel. Yeah, okay, why I can't understand why, instead of all this fiddling and tweaking, and I did question Mr. Robert Shaw when he did all this point system and everything else. Jersey, for example, have they as you know, they have a housing authority, although it is government controlled, Andenham or something they're called. But they have their rents are set on 2/3 of the average private housing. Because I know the average private rents. I know that private renting on this island, there are some horrendous prices, but there are some good ones. I privately rented years ago, and I had a very good landlord. And it wasn't.
It's probably Jersey. I mean, their rents must be very high because their houses are much more costly anyway. So is that a really good example?
It seems to work out in Jersey. It certainly seems to work out well in Jersey.
Until the means testing, back to that. I mean, you accept that these people. We keep hearing about these people who've got motorhomes outside and they've got houses in Spain. I mean, no one's actually showed me that person, but do you accept that as a problem?
It can be seen as a problem, but nobody can be evicted. You cannot evict a tenant.
But they'll just put up their rents more.
They just put up their rent.
So are you for means testing?
I'm all for means testing. I think means testing is the answer.
And will that help you out then, do you think?
Oh, I think it will. Then you will see who can and can't. You see, you're going to end up with, much as I'm not going to say the vulnerable because I hate that phrase, but you have pensioners who are just above the benefit rate are going to have to find that extra money. Whereas a family below, they're on a benefit rate of whatever, so they're getting it paid.
What should Mr. Quayle do then if he's listening
I
to this?
think Mr. Quayle should sit down and talk to us. This thing about we asked, it's being made to look like local authorities wanted 5%, this is what I'm giving them. This is not what happened. The department decided. I know we've come across this with a number of things. They ask you and then the department decides.
The interesting thing is, though, a lot of people won't probably get it, and it took me a bit to keep understanding that the government doesn't get that money anyway, the increase.
No.
So it is going to the local authorities for their housing stock to be maintained, improved, replaced.
It's deficit when needed. It's
well, he's threatening, saying that won't be there if you don't take this sort of money. I mean, you heard that threat.
Well, here's a figure for you. Now, as Mr. Quayle said, they have 1,200 houses. If you got an average of £100 a week rent on those houses, there's £120,000 a week going into that department. You know, that's a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah, but we don't.
Where's it going?
Yeah, but do you know what it costs to run them? You don't know that.
Well, exactly. But then you see, you've got here behind where I live on the Clagvane estate. They're doing work here at the moment on the roofs. Now, we have pestered them for many years over the roofs because they were like thatched cottages. Mm-hmm. They've now found that they're underneath, the builders have found out that the roofs are cracked underneath, the tiles are cracked.
But it's so good example.
Yes. It should have been, if you run a maintenance thing on what the department have got in the bank, you can save a hell of a lot of money instead of sitting and doing nothing. Then all of a sudden you've got this big job and that's where the money gets eaten up.
Here's a good example. Around here, there's some fantastic new houses, weren't they, built? Mm. I mean,
the apartments?
Yeah, the apartments. I mean, people passing those probably go, wow, they're very good for social housing if you can determine that.
They are nice, but there is also, which all the local authorities, when the press release came out about the 5%, the local authorities got a second document, which actually is not in the one that went in the public domain, and I'm not bothered about it. But it says they are also considering a 5% communal charge for apartments. That's now I know people who've got apartments in Spain, and you pay for it's a community charge. Everybody pays for an apartment, but they're twisting pensioners' arms to go into these apartments. Okay. And now they're going to get whacked with plus this. Put the rent update, and if council and ministers agree, there'll be another 5%.
Okay, well this is happening now, isn't it? I mean, that's a done deal. So really, are you trying to put a marker down for the next year?
Yes, now? I have also, and Mr. Quayle, to be fair to him, has come back to me and said they will look at it. The other thing he's looking at is the average rent. It works out, you know, it will take it up to £90 a week for a 3-bedroomed house. I'm paying that now. What they don't include are the rates. Now, if you show an honest thing for an honest full rent, what somebody pays for a week, instead of saying, well, if we leave the rates off, it doesn't look quite so much and all this sort of thing, let's get an exact figure. You know, as I say, the figures on the document that I got from the department said that my rent would go up to £90 a week. I'm only paying 89, you know, without the 5%. It actually ends up at 105. Not a lot, I'll admit, compared with what, as you say, for what private people pay. But we just want a bit of honesty all the way around. And as I say, getting back to where we started, it was not local authorities that asked. We were asked for our views. We weren't asked to say, what do you want? We were asked for our views, and that's what they did. And then all of a sudden we get this thing, the majority say 5%. Well, no, they didn't. Not from what the information we've got from all the local authorities.